The concrete felt like ice against Maya Lawson's cheek. She was aware of every grain digging into her skin, aware of how her breath fogged in the February air, aware of the dull roar of blood in her ears. What she was not aware of was how to move. Her brain kept sending the signal, "Get up, just stand up. You're only 3 blocks from the bus stop." But her body simply refused to obey. It was 2:14 a.m. on a Tuesday. The street was almost completely deserted. A single street lamp flickered weakly above, casting a tired circle of light over her crumpled body. Somewhere nearby, a stray cat watched her from underneath a parked car, its eyes twin green coins in the dark. Maya's eyes were open, but the world around her had gone soft at the edges, like someone had smeared her vision with Vaseline. Her phone was in the pocket of her cheap jacket. She knew that. She could feel its rectangular weight against her hip. But lifting an arm suddenly felt like lifting a car. So this is how it ends, she thought. Not in some dramatic accident. Not in a hospital bed at 80 surrounded by grandkids. Just face down on a frozen sidewalk because I worked myself into the ground for a man who won't even pick up his phone. She had called him, Trevor, 7 times before her shift at the warehouse ended. 7 calls, 7 trips straight to voicemail. The first voicemail had been a normal one. "Hey babe, I'm on my way out. Can you stay awake to pick me up? It's freezing." The second one had a crackle of irritation. The third one was shorter. The fourth, fifth, and sixth were just her saying, "Please, Trev, I'm so tired. Just once." The seventh message was nothing but her breathing, ragged, too exhausted to form a full sentence. Maya Lawson was 32 years old. On paper, she looked like someone whose life should have been going somewhere. Bachelor's degree in business administration, strong GPA, a capstone project her professor once said could become a real company with the right backing. In reality, she had never used her degree for anything except hanging it, crooked, on the wall of the small apartment she shared with a man who called her his miracle, and then turned her into his personal bailout plan. She had 4 jobs, not one and a side hustle. 4. From 4 a.m. to 7 a.m., she scrubbed bathrooms and vacuumed carpets in empty office buildings before the employees arrived. From 7:30 a.m. to 3 p.m., she poured coffee and forced smiles at a diner where the regulars knew her name, but never once wondered why the dark circles under her eyes kept getting worse. From 4 p.m. to 9 p.m., she stocked shelves and faced canned goods at a grocery store that never seemed to run out of customers or fluorescent light. From 10 p.m. to 2 a.m., she loaded boxes in a warehouse so cold her fingertips went numb under her thin gloves. 7 days a week, for 2 years, all to keep up with the minimum payments on Trevor's gambling debts, which sat in her mind like a malignant growth. $87,000, $87,000. The number was always there. She saw it when the alarm went off at 3:15 a.m., and she dragged herself out of bed while Trevor snored beside her. She saw it when she refilled coffee cups at the diner, calculating tips in her head and mentally subtracting them from the tumor of debt. She saw it while she scanned groceries and smiled through customers' complaints about prices. She saw it when she hefted heavy boxes onto conveyor belts at the warehouse, her muscles screaming, her heart racing, her joints feeling at least 20 years older than she was. Her body had been trying to warn her for months. The headaches that never fully left, the dizzy spells that made the room tilt at random moments, so she had to grab the wall and pretend she'd just dropped something. The nosebleeds that soaked into cheap tissues in the diner's employee bathroom. The way her jeans hung on her hips now, because she kept forgetting to eat. And by forgetting, she meant she chose between food and the electric bill. The clumps of hair in the shower drain that she pretended not to see. But every time her body whispered, "Stop, please stop," she pushed it aside and heard Trevor's voice instead. "Just a little longer, babe. I'm done gambling, I swear. Once this debt is gone, we'll breathe again. I'll take you on that vacation to the beach. You love the beach, remember?" Trevor Lawson promised a lot of things. A car passed by at the end of the street, its headlights sweeping across Maya's lifeless-looking body. The engine noise grew, then faded. The car did not slow down. It did not stop. She watched the red taillights disappear around the corner and felt something inside her chest crack. Not her heart, that had broken a long time ago. in tiny fractures every time Trevor lied, and she pretended to believe him. No, this was different. This was her last little scrap of hope finally snapping. She thought about the woman she used to be, the girl in college who laughed loudly and dreamed of opening a small restaurant one day, soul food with a twist, recipes inspired by her Aunt Irene's cooking. The woman who believed loyalty meant something, that love plus hard work could fix almost anything. That woman felt like someone she had seen in an old movie once. Familiar but unreachable. The cold seeped through her thin blue jacket, the one with the broken zipper that she kept meaning to replace, but never did because between new jacket and minimum payment, the minimum payment won every time. Her fingers were numb. Her lips were split and dry. The last thing she'd eaten was a granola bar she discovered in the bottom of her locker at the diner. Yesterday morning. Footsteps. Heavy boots on concrete. A beam of light cut across her blurred vision, darting over her face, her jacket, her ID badge still clipped crookedly to her shirt. Ma'am, can you hear me? Maya tried to speak, but what came out was a weak, broken sound. Not quite a word. The boots came closer. A face appeared above her. Brown skin, steady eyes, dark hair pulled back under a police cap. A woman in uniform, lines of concern etched around her mouth. "I'm Officer Renee Howard," the woman said, kneeling down, voice firm but gentle. "Help is on the way. Can you tell me your name?" Maya, she whispered. "Maya Lawson." "Okay, Maya, stay with me, all right? You're going to be okay. Is there someone I can call? Family? A friend? Your husband?" Husband. For a split second, Maya saw Trevor in her mind. Snoring in their bed, phone on silent, arm probably thrown around the extra pillow he liked. She pictured his expression if he saw the missed calls. The sigh. The rolled eyes. "You're so dramatic, May. Why didn't you just take a taxi?" he would say, ignoring the fact that a taxi was half her grocery budget for the week. "There's no one," Maya whispered. "No one to call." A look crossed Officer Howard's face. Something like pity, something like anger on Maya's behalf. Maya closed her eyes. She did not want to see that look. She did not want anyone's pity. She wanted someone to explain how a woman who had once believed she was smart, capable, destined for something good had ended up here, lying half frozen on a sidewalk in a city of millions, utterly alone. The rising wail of sirens grew louder, and then everything went black. 3 days before Maya's body finally quit on her, Trevor Lawson sat in a leather booth at a restaurant on the other side of town. It was the kind of place Maya used to point at wistfully when they passed by. White tablecloths, crystal glasses, soft jazz in the corner, waiters who glided instead of walked. The cheapest entree cost more than she made in an entire shift at the grocery store. Trevor had told her once, "One day, babe, one day I'll bring you here, and you can order whatever you want." That day never came for her, but it came for the woman currently sitting across from him. Sophia Cruz was 29, all sharp cheekbones and a smile that said she had never been told no enough in her life. Long dark braids spilled over the shoulders of an emerald green dress that fit her a little too perfectly to have ever been on clearance. The dress had been paid for by the secret credit card Trevor kept hidden, one Maya didn't know existed. "So," Sophia said, swirling her red wine, "when are you going to leave her?" Trevor shifted, his dress shirt suddenly too tight around his neck. "It's complicated." "What's complicated?" Sophia raised an eyebrow. "You told me she's working herself into the ground to pay off your mess." "My debts," he corrected automatically, like that somehow made it sound more responsible. "She's paying off my debts." "The debts she doesn't even know the full amount of," Sophia shot back. Trevor glanced around, lowered his voice. "She thinks it's 87,000. She doesn't know about the other 40. Sophia let out a low whistle that held absolutely no admiration. "So she's breaking her back working 4 jobs, and she's still in the dark?" "Damn, Trev. Even for you, that's ice cold." "I'll tell her eventually," he muttered, "once things calm down." "Newsflash," Sophia said with a smirk. "Things don't calm down around you. That's the problem. And the fun." She leaned forward, her perfume drifting like smoke between them. "But I'm tired of being your secret." I don't want to be the woman you sneak around with. I want to be the woman sitting beside you in the daylight. Trevor reached across the table, took her hand. Soon, he said, eyes pleading. I promise. I just need her to pay down a little more so the collectors back off. Then I'll file for divorce. He had been saying the same thing for 18 months. Meanwhile, Maya was too exhausted to notice the faint traces of someone else's perfume on his collar, too tired to question why the credit card statements seemed thinner, even though they were always broke. Too busy fighting dizziness and hunger to ask what Trevor did on the nights she worked the 10 p.m. 2 a.m. shift. Trevor didn't love her anymore. Maybe he never really had. What he loved was what she did for him. The way she always found one more shift when a payment was due. The way she quietly fixed things. The way she accepted blame when he lost at cards or at the track. She had given him everything. Her savings, $12,000 she'd scraped together before their wedding, gone within months on emergencies and just until I get back on my feet, babe. Her credit, once pristine, now riddled with late payments and maxed out cards he'd opened in her name. Her dreams, postponed so many times they'd turned to dust. Her trust, shattered piece by piece. Every day he lied, and she pretended to believe him, because the alternative, admitting she'd married a man who would use her, was too painful to face. The morning before Maya collapsed, Trevor stood in the bedroom doorway as she buttoned her worn work shirt with fingers that trembled from fatigue. Hey, you got 40 bucks? He asked without preamble. Maya blinked, trying to focus on his face. 40? For what? Groceries. We're out of everything. I can't even make toast. She thought about the half bag of rice in the cupboard, the canned beans, the eggs she'd been mentally rationing. I was going to pick some things up after my shift, she said quietly. I need to eat today. He didn't look at her as he said it, eyes glued to something on his phone. I'll cook for you tonight. Make it up to you. That line still worked on her, somehow. She opened her wallet. 220s. That was it. That money was supposed to cover her bus fare for the week and at least a couple of cheap meals between shifts. She handed him the bills anyway. It's all I've got until Friday, she said. You're a lifesaver, Trevor said, still staring at his phone. He leaned in so she could kiss his cheek. He barely turned his head. Trevor did not buy groceries. He bought lottery tickets, 5 of them from the gas station 3 blocks from their apartment. He scratched them distractedly at the kitchen table, losing on 4, tucking the 5th into his wallet because it looked lucky. He told himself it wasn't gambling, not like the poker games or the horses. The lottery was just possibility, one ticket to change everything. For him, not for her. That afternoon at the diner, a wave of dizziness hit Maya so hard she had to grab the counter with both hands. Girl, you look like death, her coworker Jasmine said, pausing mid-order. You need to go home. I can't, Maya murmured, swallowing hard. The spinning slowly eased. I need the hours. You need to not pass out in a stack of pancakes, Jasmine shot back. No job is worth that. I'm fine, Maya lied. I'm always fine. She was not fine. But saying I'm not fine felt like admitting defeat. And Maya Lawson did not lose. Not if she could still stand up. When she opened her eyes again, the world had changed. Gone was the brutal cold in the stained sidewalk. Instead, she saw white. White walls, white ceiling tiles, white sheets. The sharp antiseptic smell told her where she was before the machines, beeping softly beside her bed did. A hospital. Her tongue felt like sandpaper. She tried to sit up. Pain stabbed across her chest. A hand pressed gently on her shoulder. Easy, a calm voice said. Don't rush it. You gave us all a scare. Maya turned her head. A woman in a white coat stood beside the bed, gray streaks in her tight curls, glasses perched on the end of her nose. Her name tag read, Dr. Evelyn Hart. Where? Maya's voice came out as a croak. Memorial General, Dr. Hart answered. You collapsed from a combination of exhaustion, dehydration, and severe malnutrition. Your body decided it was done negotiating and just shut itself down to protect what was left. She checked the monitors with practiced efficiency. You've been unconscious for almost 40 hours. 40 hours, panic flared in Maya's chest. My jobs, she whispered. I have to call. Your jobs can wait, Dr. Hart said firmly. Right now, if you go back to what you were doing, you will be dead within 6 months, maybe less. I've been a doctor 25 years. I don't say that to scare you. I say it because it's the truth. Maya stared at her, throat tight. How long have you been living like this? Dr. Hart asked more softly. 2 years, Maya said. Saying it out loud made it feel even more insane. Dr. Hart sighed. Well, it stops now. Your heart is under strain. Your kidneys are showing early signs of damage. You need rest, actual food, and about 3 fewer jobs. Maya's eyes filled with tears, not from pain, but from the crushing weight of numbers. Not just the test results, the $87,000 that hovered at the edge of every thought. Has anyone? Her voice faltered. Has anyone been here? My husband? Dr. Hart hesitated for the briefest moment, and that hurt more than any needle in Maya's arm. A man came by yesterday, she said finally. Said he was your husband. He stayed about 10 minutes. He left before you woke up. 10 minutes. 40 hours unconscious, and Trevor had managed 10 minutes. Did he say anything? Maya asked, though part of her already knew. He said he'd be back, Dr. Hart replied, but her tone suggested she did not put much faith in that promise. For what it's worth, the nurse who was on duty said he spent most of the time on his phone. The next 3 days blurred together. IV drips, vitals checks, nurses sliding in and out like ghosts, trays of food she struggled to eat because her body had forgotten what full felt like. She called Trevor's number 17 times. Every time voicemail. She sent 12 text messages. No answer. On the 4th day, her phone finally buzzed. Not with his name, with a text from someone she had not spoken to in weeks. Aunt Irene. Baby, I just saw the news. Turn on Channel 6. Maya frowned. She grabbed the remote with shaky fingers and asked the nurse to help her find the channel on the tiny TV bolted high in the corner. The picture flickered, then sharpened. A reporter stood in front of a convenience store with a smiling couple framed in the shot. The man was holding a giant check. Maya's breath left her body. Trevor. He looked better than she'd seen him in years. Fresh haircut, brand new jacket, grin so wide it seemed to split his face in two. His arm was wrapped comfortably around Sophia's waist. Sophia, in a red dress this time, leaned into him like she belonged there. Local man wins $14 million in the state lottery, the anchor announced cheerfully. Trevor Lawson says he plans to use the money to travel the world with his girlfriend, Sophia Cruz. Girlfriend. The word echoed in Maya's skull. Trevor talked, animated, gesturing with the oversized check. He mentioned buying a house somewhere warm. He mentioned a trip to Europe. He mentioned finally living the life we deserve. He did not mention his wife. He did not mention the woman lying in a hospital bed whose 4 jobs had kept the lights on long enough for him to buy that lucky ticket. Maya's hands shook as she grabbed her phone and dialed his number again. This time she didn't get voicemail. She got 3 sharp beeps and a flat mechanical voice. The number you have dialed is not able to receive calls. He hadn't just ignored her. He had blocked her. Maya tried to search his profile on social media. His accounts were gone. She called his brother. No answer. His mother. Straight to voicemail. His best friend. Nothing. It was as if someone had gone through her life with an eraser and scrubbed out every line connected to Trevor Lawson. 4 jobs, 2 years, 1 broken body, and nothing to show for it but hospital bills and a TV screen full of her husband and his mistress planning a future she had almost died trying to make possible. Something shifted inside her, slowly, like tectonic plates grinding. The sorrow was still there, deep and dark and wide, but pushing up through it was something hotter, sharper, more focused than she had felt in a very long time. Rage. Not the wild, self-destructive kind. Not the kind that flails in all directions and burns everything, including the person holding it. This was a colder fire. Trevor Lawson had stolen her time, her youth, her health, and her trust. He had walked away with $14 million and another woman on his arm while Maya lay hooked to machines, barely able to sit up. He thought that was the end of the story. He was wrong. Maya Lawson stared at the frozen image of Trevor on the TV screen. His smile still stretched impossibly wide, and made herself a silent promise. You will regret this. I don't know when, and I don't know how, but you will regret the day you decided I was disposable. And when that day comes, I won't be the one on the ground anymore. I'll be standing. 3 days after the lottery broadcast, Maya signed the discharge papers with a hand that still shook. She had no coat that wasn't torn or filthy, so a nurse found a spare gray hoodie from the lost and found and draped it over her shoulders with a quiet, "Take it." The hospital gave her a cheap pair of sweatpants, a plastic bag with her shoes, and a stack of pamphlets about work-life balance that felt almost insulting. "Where will you go?" Dr. Hart asked, arms folded, eyes kind but firm. Maya stared at the floor for a long moment. "My aunt," she said finally, "if she'll have me." "She already said she would," Dr. Hart replied. "She called here twice, said to tell you, and I quote, 'Bring my girl home before she scares the angels.'" Maya almost smiled. "That sounds like her." "Doctor," Hart squeezed her shoulder, "you're not allowed to go back to 4 jobs. That's non-negotiable. Your body won't survive it. You understand?" "How am I supposed to pay for anything?" Maya asked quietly. "You survived 2 years making miracles out of nothing," Dr. Hart said. "You'll figure out a way that doesn't kill you, but you won't be doing it alone this time." "Alone?" The word made Maya's stomach twist. She nodded, thanked Dr. Hart, and walked slowly down the long corridor toward the exit, her small plastic bag swinging at her side. The hospital courtyard was brighter than she remembered. Winter sunlight bounced off the pale concrete, almost too much after the dimness of her room. She spotted an empty bench and sat down carefully, feeling every ache in her muscles. She had nowhere to be for the first time in years. No shift to catch, no bus schedule to race, no text from Trevor telling her to bring home beer or send money. Just a raw, hollow silence where her life used to be. "Is this seat taken?" The male voice startled her. Maya looked up. A man stood a few feet away, holding 2 paper cups of coffee. He was tall, with warm brown skin and close-cropped hair just beginning to show threads of silver at the temples. His dark overcoat fell perfectly, expensive without screaming a brand. Everything about him looked clean, controlled, deliberate. "There are plenty of other benches," Maya said automatically. Her voice came out brittle. "There are," he agreed easily. "But you look like you could use caffeine and someone who's not wearing scrubs." He held out one of the cups. "Promise I didn't poison it." "I'm not that interesting." She eyed the coffee suspiciously, then took it. Her fingers closed around the blessed warmth. "Hospital coffee is its own kind of poison anyway," she muttered. He laughed, and the sound was surprisingly genuine. "Fair point. I'm Adrian. Adrian Cole." "Ah, Maya," she said cautiously. "Maya Lawson." He sat, leaving a respectful gap between them. For a few moments they simply sat in silence, watching a pair of nurses cross the courtyard, the faint hum of traffic beyond the gate. "This is going to sound strange," Adrian said finally, "but I've actually been trying to find you." Maya's body went rigid. "I don't have any more money," she said immediately. "If you're with a collection agency, call my husband. They're his debts." He held up his hands, palms out. "I'm not with anyone, I promise. I was the one who called the ambulance the night you collapsed." She stared at him. "The cop said some driver reported it." "That was me," he said. "I was coming back from a late meeting. I saw you on the sidewalk, and at first I thought you'd dropped something. Then I realized you weren't moving." He paused, his jaw tightening. "I pulled over, checked your pulse. You were breathing, but barely conscious. I called 911, stayed until the police arrived. Officer Howard, I think." "Renee," Maya said automatically, remembering the kind eyes above her. "That's it. I gave a statement and left before the ambulance took you. The hospital wouldn't tell me much. Privacy laws, but I kept calling to see if you made it." He shrugged. "When they said you were being discharged today, I asked if I could catch you before you left. They said it was your choice." Maya studied him. Expensive coat, polished shoes, a watch that had probably never seen a discount rack. In her experience, people like him didn't do anything without calculating the return. "What do you want?" she asked bluntly. He smiled a little, and it reached his eyes. "Nothing. Not from you. I just wanted to see you on your feet. When I saw you on the ground that night, I had this awful feeling I'd be reading about you in the obituaries." Well, congrats, she said dryly. I'm not dead, just broke, homeless, and newly abandoned. Big upgrade. His smile faded. I saw the news, he said quietly. About the lottery. About your husband. Heat crawled up Maya's neck. Shame, rage, humiliation, they all tangled together until she could barely breathe. That has nothing to do with you, she snapped. You're right, it doesn't. Adrian's tone stayed calm. But I recognize the look in your eyes. I've seen it in the mirror before. You don't know anything about me, she said. I know what it looks like when somebody you trusted takes everything and walks away smiling, he said. My ex-wife ran off with my co-founder 10 years ago. Took half our company and 2/3 of my friends. Everyone thought I'd be finished. So no, I don't know your exact pain. But betrayal? He looked at her. That language I speak. They sat in silence again. My aunt texted me to turn on the TV, Maya said after a long moment. There he was, $14 million. Girlfriend in a red dress, so happy. Her voice wobbled. He blocked my number the same day. I'm sorry, Adrian said simply. She waited for advice, for platitudes, for, you're better off without him. None came. I have nothing, she said quietly. No apartment, no job I'm physically allowed to do, no savings. I'm going to my aunt's with a hospital bag and a diploma that might as well be a napkin. What did you study? He asked. Business administration, she said, back when I thought I'd use it for something other than calculating minimum payments. What did you want to do with it? There was genuine curiosity in his tone. She almost didn't answer, but the words slipped out anyway, soft and fragile. Open a place, she said. A little restaurant. My Aunt Irene makes the best food you've ever tasted. I used to dream about turning her recipes into something real. A place with a line out the door and my name on the lease. Lawson's Table. She shook her head sharply. It was stupid. It doesn't sound stupid, Adrian said. It sounds like a solid concept. She snorted. You don't even know the menu. Southern soul food with your aunt's twist, he said. Comfort dishes, modern plating, neighborhood vibe, but good enough to draw people from across town. Am I warm? She turned her head slowly. How did you... I may own a couple of companies, he said with a slight shrug, but at heart I'm a man who likes to eat, and I know the way people talk when they talk about food they love. Your whole face changed when you mentioned your aunt's cooking. Maya realized her cheeks felt hot. She swallowed. Like any bank is going to lend me a dime. Adrian reached into his coat and pulled out a simple black business card. On it, in understated silver letters, were the words, Cole Industries, Adrian J. Cole. Founder and CEO Maya's brain stumbled. Cole Industries was on half the tech buildings downtown. She'd seen his name in news feeds she scrolled past on her 5-minute breaks, never connecting it to a real person. You're that Adrian Cole? She asked faintly. Last time I checked, he said. But I'm not offering charity, Maya. I don't hand out checks to random people I meet in the hospital courtyards. Then what are you offering? She asked, fingers tightening around the cheap coffee cup. An option, he said. When you're ready. You're clearly smart. You clearly work harder than you should have to. You clearly have an idea that means something to you. He nodded at the card. If you ever decide you want to explore that idea, call my assistant. She'll put you directly through to me. You don't even know if I'm any good, Maya said. Maybe I'm terrible at business. Maybe I'm a quitter. I saw you on the ground that night, Adrian said softly. Even half-conscious, you were trying to push yourself up. Most people just lie there and wait. You were still fighting with nothing left. That tells me more than a resume ever could. Maya blinked hard. I'm not promising anything, he continued. I don't know yet if I'd invest in your dream, but I know I want to hear you pitch it properly, when you've had rest and a few decent meals. No pressure, no rush. He stood up, buttoning his coat. And as for your husband, his voice hardened. He made the worst trade of his life, even if he doesn't realize it yet. $14 million doesn't buy back what he threw away. He walked toward the hospital doors, then turned back. Get some sleep, Maya. Let your aunt feed you, then decide who you want to be next. Don't decide based on what he did. When he disappeared inside, Maya looked down at the card in her hand. Cole Industries. The coffee tasted as bad as she expected, but it was hot. Someone had gone out of their way to bring it to her. That was more than Trevor had done in a very long time. For the first time since she'd hit the pavement, something flickered in her chest that wasn't despair. Possibility. And Irene's house smelled like memory. Maya stepped through the front door 3 days later and was immediately wrapped in the familiar sense of cinnamon, smoked paprika, and something sweet baking in the oven. Irene was short, round, and formidable. 70 years old with a streak of white through her tight curls, she wore a faded apron and the expression of a woman who had survived too much to be easily rattled. "There you are," she said, as if Maya had just come in late from school. "Get in here, girl. You look like a stiff breeze could blow you into next week." Maya's throat tightened. "I'm sorry, No." Irene pointed a floured finger at her. "We're not starting with apologies. Your room is made up. Put that hospital bag down and sit. There's stew on the stove." "You're not going to ask about him?" Maya managed. Irene's mouth flattened. "I told you what I thought about that man when he forgot his wallet at every family dinner," she said. "But you're here now, and that's what matters. We can talk about him when you can stand for more than 10 minutes without wobbling." Maya slept for almost 14 hours straight that first night. She woke up to sunlight streaming through lace curtains and the faint clatter of pots in the kitchen. For a moment, she forgot everything. Trevor, the lottery, the debt. She was just a kid again, spending summers at Aunt Irene's house, stealing slices of peach before they made it into the cobbler dish. Then the memory of the hospital came crashing back. She lay there, staring at the ceiling, paralyzed by the weight of what came next. No jobs, no money, no plan. Just an empty day stretching out like a question mark. "Either you died in the night or you're ignoring the smell of fresh biscuits," Irene's voice called from the hall. "And if you're ignoring my biscuits, you definitely need a doctor again." Maya shuffled into the kitchen, bare feet on cool tile. Irene eyed her critically. "Better," Irene declared. "You've got color now. Sit." Maya sat. The plate Irene set in front of her held scrambled eggs, a biscuit the size of her fist, and thick slices of tomato sprinkled with salt and pepper. Maya's stomach clenched, half with hunger, half with habit. "I can't eat all this," she protested. "We need to stretch." "We need to get you back to human size," Irene interrupted. "Eat." Maya took a bite. It was ridiculous how fast tears burned her eyes. The eggs tasted like food. Real food. Not half a granola bar wolfed down between shifts. "Hey now," Irene said softly. "We don't cry over eggs in this house. We save that for funerals and Hallmark movies." Maya laughed wetly and wiped her eyes. "Sorry, hormones, trauma. Take your pick." For the next week, Irene did not ask about Trevor. She did not ask about the jobs or the debt or the lottery. She simply fed Maya, let her sleep, and slid simple tasks her way when she sensed Maya was restless. Peeling potatoes, dusting shelves, watering the plants that crowded the front porch. Maya's body slowly remembered what rest meant. The dark circles under her eyes faded a little. Her hands shook less. She could stand in the shower without leaning against the wall. The guilt took longer to fade. Every time she sat down, some internal voice hissed, "You're wasting time. You should be working. The debt won't pay itself." On the 8th day, Maya found Irene in the tiny backyard, hanging laundry on the line. "I feel useless," Maya blurted. "Like I'm just taking up space." "You're healing," Irene said. "Healing looks a lot like doing nothing from the outside. But inside, your body's repairing damage you refused to acknowledge for 2 years." Maya fidgeted with a clothespin. "I don't know what I'm supposed to do now." "Good," Irene said. Maya frowned. "Good?" "For years, what you were supposed to do was whatever that boy needed," Irene said. "This is the first time you get to ask a different question. What do you want to do? Not what can you survive. What do you want?" Maya thought about the business card sitting on the dresser in her borrowed room. "I don't know if I'm allowed to want anything," she said. "That man took your money, your time, your health," Irene said flatly. "Don't you dare let him take your right to want things too." That night, lying in bed, Maya picked up the card. Coal Industries. She turned it over and over in her fingers until the edges started to fray. Then, before she could talk herself out of it, she grabbed her phone and dialed the number on the back. Cole Industries. A crisp female voice answered. This is Nina. How may I direct your call? Um, Maya swallowed. My name is Maya Lawson. Mr. Cole gave me his card at Memorial General. He said I could call. There was the faint click of a keyboard. Yes, Ms. Lawson, he left a note about you. Can you hold for a moment? She didn't have time to panic before the line clicked again. Maya? Adrian's voice came through, warm and clear. I was starting to think you threw my card away. I thought about it, she admitted, but you didn't. She could hear the smile in his voice. Progress. How are you feeling? Less like roadkill, she said. More like a person who got run over and then dragged a few miles, but better. He chuckled. That's a start. I'm not ready for anything big, she said quickly. I just wanted to say thank you. For the coffee. For calling the ambulance. For not pretending you could fix my life in one conversation. I don't fix lives, Adrian said. Most days I barely keep my own from falling apart. But I'm good at building things. Companies, systems, opportunities. When you're ready, I'd still like to hear about that restaurant. Maya hesitated. What if I don't want a restaurant anymore, she said. What if that dream died on that sidewalk? Then we'll find out what's left, he said. But my bet? The dream's still there. Just scared. He paused. Come to dinner with me. Maya's defenses shot up. I'm not ready to date anybody, she said sharply. It's not a date, Adrian replied. It's a meeting over food. You talk, I listen. You leave when you want. No strings, no expectations. You pick the place. She thought about cheap diners and greasy spoons, about feeling small in fancy places. There's this little spot downtown, she said slowly. They do twisted soul food. It's not expensive, but it's good. Text me the name and time, he said. I'll be there. After she hung up, Maya stared at the screen for a full minute. You look like someone just asked you to rob a bank, Irene said from the doorway, a towel in her hands. He wants to hear about my restaurant idea, Maya said. He owns half the skyline, and he wants to hear about my aunt's recipes. Irene snorted. Then you better wear something that makes you feel like the boss, not the help. Maya glanced down at her faded hoodie. Tomorrow, Irene said, tossing the towel on the bed. We're going shopping. The little restaurant Maya chose for her, not a date with Adrian, didn't look like much from the outside. A narrow storefront squeezed between a barbershop and a pawn shop. Fogged windows. A hand-painted sign above the door that read, Mama D's, comfort food, no apologies. Inside, the air smelled like fried chicken, collard greens, and cornbread. People laughed loudly. A kid in a booster seat banged a spoon against the table. It felt alive. Maya arrived early, nerves jangling. She wore the green blouse Aunt Irene had insisted on buying and jeans that actually fit, not the baggy work pants that had become her second skin. She had rehearsed what she would say. Professional, detached, like a woman pitching a startup in a boardroom. All of that flew out of her head the second Adrian walked in. He didn't look like a billionaire. No entourage, no expensive watch flashing under the lights, just dark jeans, a well-cut navy blazer, and the same calm presence he'd had on the bench. Hey, he said, smiling as if they met like this all the time. You look awake. High praise, she said, amused despite her nerves. You clean up okay yourself. They ordered iced tea and a table full of too much food. Fried catfish, macaroni and cheese, collards, cornbread, candied yams. For a while they just ate, letting the silence stretch comfortably between them. So, Adrian said eventually, wiping his hands. Lawson's table. Talk to me. Maya swallowed. It was just a college project, she said. My capstone. We had to design a full business plan. Market research, branding, numbers. I based mine on Aunt Irene's recipes. I had this idea of a place that felt like home, but plated like a modern spot. Comfort food without the stereotypical look. And, Adrian asked, and my professor said it was the strongest plan in the class. She allowed herself a small smile. He told me if I ever decided to pursue it, he'd make introductions. But life happened, Adrian finished gently. But life happened, she agreed. She told him about the jobs, one by one. The 4 a.m. cleaning rounds, the diner. the grocery store, the warehouse, how one temporary extra shift had turned into two, then three, then permanent. She didn't mention how many times Trevor had said, "Just for a little while, babe," like it was nothing. Adrian listened without interrupting, his eyes focused on her, not his phone, not the room. "When you think about Lawson's table now," he asked eventually, "do you feel, what, excitement, anger, grief, all of the above?" Maya stared at the condensation sliding down her glass. "Honestly, I feel stupid," she said. "Like that girl who thought she could open a restaurant was naive. She didn't know about creditors calling 10 times a day or collapsing on sidewalks." "I don't think she was stupid," Adrian said. "I think she was right about you before you forgot who you were." "Who am I then?" Maya asked quietly. "You're the woman who built 4 parallel careers out of fear," he said. "Imagine what you'd build out of actual ambition." She let out a shaky laugh. "Fear is free. Ambition needs capital." "True," he said, "but capital follows competence, and you have that." He opened his tablet and slid it across the table. "I had my team pull your old neighborhood's demographic," he said. "Household income, restaurant density, food truck usage, delivery trends. The city's changing. People are hungry for exactly the kind of concept you described." She blinked. "You had your team pull data for my imaginary restaurant?" "I like to do my homework," Adrian said. "Also, I was curious. I don't put my name near something unless the foundation is solid. This is solid." Maya scrolled through the numbers, charts, little colored maps she only half understood. "What are you saying?" she whispered. "I'm saying," Adrian replied, "if you're willing to do the work, I'm willing to be your first investor." Her chest tightened. "I don't take handouts." "Good," he said, "because that's not what this is. This would be a real investment. Contracts, equity split, repayment structure. I'd expect a return." "And if it fail," she asked, "then I lose money and you gain a hell of an education," he said calmly. "I can afford the risk. Can you afford not to try?" The question sat between them. "What would you want in return?" she asked finally. 30% ownership, he said. "You keep 70. You control the brand, the food, the creative direction. I provide capital, strategic guidance, and access to people you can't reach yet. And if I ever start acting like I own you or your idea, you fire me." Maya laughed in disbelief. "It's not that easy." "It is, if we put it in writing," he said. "I'm not interested in owning your life. I'm interested in betting on someone I think has been underestimated her entire life." She stared at him, at the numbers, at the cartilage of her old dream, suddenly visible again. "What if I'm not ready?" she asked. "Then we go slower," he said. "Start with catering. Out of your aunt's kitchen, low overhead. Test the menu, build a following. We don't sign anything until you're sleeping through the night and not flinching every time your phone rings." "I'm not used to people being this patient," she admitted. "That's because you've spent years around the wrong people," Adrian said. Ekuriya Farm, 3 months later, the first tray of Irene's table food left Aunt Irene's house for a paying customer. The name had been a compromise. Maya had fought for Lawson's table. Irene had rolled her eyes. "Child, nobody knows a Lawson from a lamppost," Irene had said. "People remember the food. They remember who made it. Call it what they already say when they ask who cooked. Irene's table must be blessed by God. There's your brand." So it became Irene's table, home on a plate, according to the flyers Adrian's marketing team designed. The first customers were church ladies who had been eating Irene's cooking for years, then neighbors, then friends of neighbors. The orders started small: pans of macaroni and cheese, collards, fried chicken for after-service lunches and small gatherings. Maya handled the logistics, the ordering, the budget spreadsheets. She hadn't realized how much she'd missed building something on paper that turned into something in the real world. She worked 12-hour days again, sometimes more. But the work felt different. She wasn't sprinting from one boss to another, desperate not to be late. She was moving through a kitchen that smelled like garlic and smoked turkey legs, shoulder to shoulder with her aunt, wearing an apron that said simply, "Maya, head chef and CEO." Her muscles still ached. Her feet still hurt. But each pain came with a strange sense of pride. She was building. The first local news segment happened by accident. A customer whose son worked at a TV station brought her boss a plate of leftovers. He raved. He pitched a hidden gem feature for the morning show. 2 weeks later, a camera crew squeezed into Irene's tiny kitchen, filming Maya and Irene as they stirred giant pots. Two women, one dream, and recipes passed down through generations, the anchor said into the camera. You'll want to remember the name, Irene's Table. Maya watched the segment that night with Aunt Irene and Adrian in the small living room. Seeing herself on the screen felt surreal. She looked happy, focused, alive. The orders tripled within days. Adrian's team scrambled to upgrade their ordering system. A popular food blogger came, tasted everything, and wrote a glowing review. This is what comfort tastes like. I told you, Adrian said, showing her the sales numbers on his tablet one afternoon. I only back winners. You barely know me, she said. I know enough, he replied. And every day, you prove me right. She looked at him then, really looked at him. Not as the man who had called an ambulance, or the billionaire on magazine covers, or the investor with the neat spreadsheets. Just as a person who showed up without trying to take over, who brought her coffee when she was too busy to remember to drink water, who listened when she doubted herself and never said, I told you so. Why do you care so much? She asked one evening, cleaning down the counters after a long day. Because somebody did it for me, he said simply. When my life blew up, I had one person who looked at the wreckage and said, there's still something worth building here. Without him, there is no coal industries. I told him if I ever got the chance, I'd be that person for someone else. Is this you paying it forward? She asked. He smiled a little. Something like that. Also, your red velvet cake is dangerously addictive. I'm protecting my access. 6 months after the segment, Irene's Table outgrew Aunt Irene's kitchen. They found a small commercial space in a transitioning neighborhood, once run down, now full of young families and new businesses. The lease terms were rough. The landlord assumed they'd be desperate. Adrian's legal team handled it. By the time the contract was signed, Irene's Table had room to scale and a fair deal. Maya hired staff, 2 line cooks, a delivery driver, and Patricia, a former supervisor from the cleaning company, to handle the office. You sure you want me? Patricia had asked. I'm used to mop schedules, not menu spreadsheets. You ran circles around every manager we had, Maya said. I trust you with my name on invoices. They launched catering packages for corporate clients. Adrian opened a few doors with his contacts but refused to let her rely on his name. These deals have to be about your food and your service, he said. Not about me. Otherwise, when my name stops impressing them, you've got nothing. Maya walked into glass towers carrying sample trays, straightened her shoulders, and pitched Irene's Table like it had been her plan all along. Contracts followed, small at first, weekly lunches for a team here, monthly events for an office there, then bigger, holiday parties, product launches, non-profit galas that wanted food that felt real, not fussy. Irene's Table revenue charts climbed. Maya's health charts stabilized. For the first time in years, she didn't wake up with a knot of dread in her stomach thinking about bill collectors. The debt, however, still existed. 11 months after her collapse, Maya sat at the kitchen table with a stack of statements in a notebook. She had avoided looking at those numbers, afraid they'd drag her back into the spiral. Time to face the devil, Irene said, setting down a cup of tea. Maya totaled everything, the remaining $87,000 from Trevor's known debts, plus penalties. The cards he'd opened in her name, medical bills. The number at the bottom still made her flinch. Adrian came over that evening. She showed him the notebook. It isn't fair, he said, frowning. He should be the one paying this, not you. He's not exactly answering my calls, she said, and the law doesn't care who wasted the money. The accounts are in my name. Adrian looked at her for a long moment. How much of this feels like your responsibility? He asked. All of it, she said immediately. Then softer. None of it. I don't know. Let's separate legal from emotional, he said. Legally, we need a lawyer who specializes in financial abuse. There may be things we can challenge. Cards opened without your consent, forged signatures. Emotionally, he paused. You have nothing to prove by martyring yourself to numbers he created. I don't want you to pay it off, she said quickly. I wasn't going to offer, he replied, but I am going to help you fight it strategically. This isn't a moral failing, Maya. It's damage done by someone who knew you'd break yourself to fix what he broke. They did find a lawyer. They did challenge several accounts. Not everything was forgiven, but enough was reduced that for the first time, the debt looked survivable. Maya made a payment plan, but this time, on her terms. She was paying off the wreckage of her past with profits from her own company, not with her body. That alone felt like a revolution. Chota Trevor saw her again on a TV screen. He was in a rented condo in Miami. The walls too white, everything too shiny. The ocean view he'd once bragged about felt meaningless as he flipped through channels listlessly. He stopped when he heard her name. And local success story, Irene's Table, founded by entrepreneur and chef Maya Lawson. There she was, standing in a bright, bustling commercial kitchen, hair tied back in a scarf, apron spotless but for a smear of sauce. She spoke directly to the camera about food, about community, about giving people a taste of home. She looked alive, healthier than he'd ever seen her, confident, grounded. Sophia glanced at the TV, disinterested. Is that your ex? She asked casually. Trevor didn't answer. He couldn't. The reporter mentioned Adrian Cole as one of the early investors, called it a partnership built on mutual respect and shared vision. Trevor felt something ugly twist in his stomach. Maya had been supposed to fall apart without him, to crawl back begging, to be stuck in the same cycle forever, proving how much she loved him by how much she could take. Instead, she had built something he couldn't even comprehend. Change it, he muttered. Put on something else. But when he closed his eyes that night, the image of Maya, head high, eyes steady, was all he could see. For the first time, he wondered if he had miscalculated. He had traded a woman who would have walked through fire for him for a woman who balked when he suggested flying commercial to save money. He reached for his phone, scrolled through old contacts until he found her number. Not in service. Of course. He searched her name online, found Irene's Table's website, photos of food that made his mouth water, rave reviews, a contact us form. His first message was short. Maya, it's Trevor. I know I hurt you. I'm sorry. Can we talk? He expected a response. He always got another chance. That was the pattern. A day passed. 2. A week. Nothing. He sent a second message. Longer. Full of excuses. How the lottery had messed with his head. How things with Sophia were complicated. How he just wanted to clear the air. Still nothing. Desperation gnawed at him. His bank account was shrinking faster than he'd anticipated. Investments he'd jumped into on the advice of friends had turned out to be sinkholes. Taxes on the winnings had taken a massive bite. Sophia's spending had eaten the rest. He saw Adrian's name in an online interview about Irene's Table and latched onto it like a lifeline. He called Cole Industries. Mr. Cole's office, Nina said. I need to talk to him, Trevor said. It's about Maya Lawson. Mr. Cole is unavailable, Nina replied smoothly. Would you like to leave a message? He left his number. Adrian never called. Meanwhile, Patricia printed the messages from the contact form and placed them neatly on Maya's desk. You want me to answer these? Patricia asked. Maya read every word slowly. Old habits tugged at her. The part of her that had once believed it was her job to rescue Trevor from himself stirred, weak but still alive. Then she remembered the sidewalk, the concrete, the sound of the TV naming Sophia his girlfriend. Delete them, she said quietly. Block the sender. Patricia's grin was vicious. My pleasure. Maya went back to work. The best revenge, she was beginning to understand, was not a dramatic confrontation. It was indifference. 1 year after Maya hit the pavement, Irene's Table was valued at just over $4 million. The number meant less to her than the tangible signs, the second location they were preparing to open across town, the 12 employees whose paychecks went out every 2 weeks, the regulars who stopped by not just for food but to say, "We're proud of you, girl." A national food magazine ran a feature on rising stars in soul food. Irene's Table was the lead story. The photos made Maya's breath catch. Not because she thought she looked beautiful, though she did in a healthy, grounded way she almost didn't recognize, but because the life in those pictures was one she had designed, not one she had survived. Adrian showed up that day with a bottle of sparkling cider and 2 glasses. "Congratulations," he said, holding out a glass. "You've officially made it onto the places people pretend they discovered first list." "We should have champagne," she said. "You don't like champagne," he replied. "You said it tastes like expensive static. Third meeting we had over food, remember?" "You remember that?" she asked, surprised. He shrugged, a bit self-conscious. "I pay attention to things that matter." They clinked glasses. "I have something else to tell you," he said, eyes serious now. "I was going to wait, but this seems like the right time." Maya's heartbeat picked up. "Okay. I sold one of my companies last month," he said. "A big one. We did very well. I want to use part of that to scale Irene's table nationally. Franchises, training programs, a line of sauces and frozen sides. But only if you want that." She stared at him. "Nationally," she repeated, "as in cities, plural. As in every major market where people miss home-cooked food and can't get it," he said. "Your aunt's recipes in places she never got to visit. We build a model that keeps control in your hands. Strict standards, tight brand guidelines. Local owners we train ourselves." "It's too much," she said. "I just learned not to pass out running one kitchen, and now you want me to run 20? "I want you to know the doors are there," he said. "You get to decide which ones to open and when. We move at your pace." He paused, then took a breath. "And there's something else." He set his glass down, and for the first time since she'd met him, looked nervous. "My feelings for you," he said slowly, "have changed over this past year. I tried to keep things strictly business because I didn't want you to feel pressured or like you owed me anything. But I can't keep pretending I don't care beyond term sheets and sales reports." Her heart thudded. "I care about you, Maya," he continued, "not just as an investment, not just as a success story, as a person. If that makes things weird, I'll step back. I needed you to know, and I will accept whatever you decide. The business stands either way." Maya had known, on some level, in the way his gaze lingered a beat too long, in the way his shoulders relaxed when she laughed, in the way her own stomach flipped sometimes when he walked into the room. I, she struggled for words. "I'm not ready to be someone's anything again. Not like that. I'm still figuring out who I am when I'm not putting someone else first." "You don't owe me an answer," he said quickly. "Not today, not this year, not ever if you don't want to give one. I'm not Derek." "I know," she said. "That's what scares me. Because with Derek, it was easy to lose myself. With you, I don't want to disappear into us. I want to stand next to you, not under you." Adrian's shoulders eased. "Good," he said, "because I don't want to be above you. I want to be beside you, if that's ever something you want. If not, I will happily spend the rest of my life being your annoyingly proud business partner." She laughed, the tension loosening in her chest. "Annoyingly proud, huh? You should see me in an investor meeting," he said. "I bring up Irene's table even when it's not technically relevant." Maya didn't give him an answer that day, or the next. Instead, she focused on the expansion plan, the training manuals, the process of turning something intimate into something scalable without losing its soul. 3 months later, she realized with a quiet start that she thought of Adrian in the plural now. Not just as my investor, but as my partner, in ways that had nothing to do with money. When she finally took his hand across a table and said, "I think I'm ready to see where this could go," she did it as a woman who knew her own worth, not as someone clinging to the first person who offered her kindness. While Maya's world expanded, Trevor's shrank. The mansion went first. He'd bought it on impulse, dizzy from the zeros in his bank account. 6 bedrooms, a pool, a media room he'd only used 3 times. The mortgage had seemed manageable when the accounts were full, and Sophia was draped over his arm, laughing. Now the property taxes and upkeep alone looked like a horror movie. "We need to scale back," he told Sophia one night, staring at a spreadsheet he barely understood. She snorted. "I didn't sign up for scaling back. I signed up for, my man hit the jackpot. The money's not endless," he said. "If we don't cut expenses, we're going to be in trouble." "Then make more," she said, as if it were that simple. Invest, gamble, whatever. You got lucky once, figure it out. She went to New York that week with his black card and came back 2 weeks later with 3 more designer bags and a $47,000 bill. The arguments grew louder, the silences longer. Eventually, the bank account blinked at him with numbers that no longer looked like fantasies. They looked like failure. One evening, Sophia stood in the middle of their too-big living room with her arms crossed. "I want half," she said. "Half of what?" he asked. "There's nothing left to split." "The cars, the furniture, whatever's in your accounts," she said. "I wasted my time here. I deserve something." He laughed bitterly. "The cars are leased. The furniture is staged. My account has 42,000 in it." She blinked. "You told me you were set for life." "I told myself that too," he snapped. "Guess we were both wrong." "Wow," she said, picking up her purse. "You're more pathetic than your ex-wife looked on the news." At least she did something with her life. The words hit harder than any slap. "Where are you going on?" he asked. "Anywhere richer," she said. "I'm done." She took the Mercedes he'd put in her name, her jewelry, her clothes, and left without looking back. He ended up in a cramped apartment across town, the kind of place he used to sneer at. The landlord eyed his credit report and demanded 3 months' rent up front. Trevor paid, hands shaking. At night, alone on a sagging mattress, he scrolled through Irene's table's social media, torturing himself with photos of Maya's glowing face, the lines outside her locations, the articles calling her the new soul of the city. He wrote one more message through the website, this one rawer than the rest. "I lost everything," he typed. "I know I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I'm drowning, Maya. Please, help me." Patricia forwarded it to Maya with a single line. "Want me to torch him or just block?" Maya read the message twice. There was a time when these words would have sent her running, reaching for her purse, trying to solve problems she had not created. Now she just felt tired. "Block him," she replied. "We don't feed ghosts." 2 years after Maya collapsed on that sidewalk, Irene's table had 3 locations and a franchise model in development. The company was valued at more than $10 million. Her hair had grown back thicker. Her cheeks had color. The doctors said her heart had fully recovered, though they would keep an eye on it. Trevor showed up one afternoon at the original location. He slipped past the front counter when a delivery driver was leaving, moving quickly, eyes darting. Patricia barely had time to hit the security buzzer before he was already in the back kitchen doorway. "Maya," he said. She turned, a tray of cornbread in her hands. For a second, her brain didn't recognize him. He looked older by a decade, thinner, stone-gray shadows under his eyes. His clothes hung on him, not in a stylish way, but like they'd been bought for a slightly healthier man. "What are you doing in my kitchen?" she asked, voice cool. He flinched. "Your kitchen," he repeated as if the phrase physically pained him. They let me in. I told them I was your husband." "You're not," she said. "Not anymore. You know that." He stepped closer, hands out like a man approaching a skittish animal. "I know I messed up," he said. "I know I don't deserve anything from you, but I'm desperate, May." "Don't call me that," she said quietly. "I lost it all," he blurted. "The money, the house, Sophia." "She left when the money did. The investments went bad. I trusted the wrong people. I I know how it sounds. Like karma or whatever. I'm living in a dump. I haven't had a real meal in days." He reached for her hand. She stepped back. "You always took care of me," he said, voice cracking. "You always found a way. Just help me get back on my feet. A loan, a job, something. I'll pay you back, I swear." Maya looked at him, really looked. This was the man she had once viewed as her whole world. The man she'd protected, defended, forgiven past the point of reason. The man she had almost died trying to save from the consequences of his own choices. He was smaller now, not just physically, in every way. "No," she said. His mouth opened, then closed. "What?" "No," she repeated clearly. "I will not give you money. I will not give you a job. I will not give you a place to stay. I won't give you anything." "You can't be serious," he said, panic creeping into his voice. After everything I did," she cut in. "Let's be accurate. I worked 4 jobs until my body quit. I cleaned up your messes. I answered the calls. I listened to your apologies. And when my body finally shut down, you went to a gas station, bought a lottery ticket with my last $40, and made a whole new life without me. That's not fair, he protested weakly. I was messed up. The money, you had a choice, she said calmly. On that day, on the day of the lottery, on every day after, you chose yourself. You chose your comfort. You chose Sophia. I chose to survive without you. He swallowed. I loved you, he said desperately. In my own way, I really did. Maya shook her head. You loved what I did for you, she said. There's a difference. I know that now. He stared at her, desperation warring with the stubborn entitlement that had always lurked beneath the charm. So that's it, he asked. You're just done? She walked to the door leading to the front, opened it, and stood aside. Yes, she said. I was done the night I realized I wanted to live more than I wanted to keep rescuing you. I just hadn't said it out loud yet. He stayed seated for a moment, like his legs couldn't quite process the command to move. Then he stood, shoulders slumping. You'll regret this, he muttered. One day you'll need someone, and they'll turn their back on you too. I hope not, she said. But if they do, at least I'll know what it feels like to stand up on my own. He walked out. She didn't watch him go. When the door swung shut behind him, she leaned against it and waited for the rush of emotion she'd expected. Anger, triumph, maybe even grief. Instead, there was nothing. Just a deep, quiet peace. A chapter had closed. For good. Her phone buzzed. Adrian. Patricia said we had an uninvited guest. Everything okay? Maya smiled. Everything's more than okay, she typed back. Are you free for dinner tonight? I want to talk about the future. The dots appeared almost instantly. Always, he replied. 5 years after the night Maya's body gave out on that sidewalk, she stood on the balcony of the penthouse she shared with Adrian, watching the city wake up. Dawn washed the buildings in soft gold. Far below, delivery trucks rumbled by, carrying food to restaurants and stores. Somewhere in 3 different states, people were unlocking the doors to Irene's table locations, tying on aprons, firing up ovens. 47 locations, a national frozen line launching the following month, a company valued at over $60 million. Her face had been on business magazine covers, yes. Her story had been told in podcasts and articles. From 4 jobs to 47 restaurants, how one woman turned exhaustion into empire. But those numbers and headlines felt like reflections, not definitions. The real victory was quieter. It was waking up rested most days. It was choosing who to feed and who to shut out. It was looking at herself in the mirror and recognizing the woman standing there. Arms slipped around her waist from behind. What's got you up so early? Adrian murmured against her hair. She leaned back into him, smiling. Thinking about Aunt Irene. She'd be out here making fun of how high up we are. She'd say we're too far from the smell of the food, Adrian said. And she'd be right. 18 months earlier, Irene had passed away in her sleep, hands folded, as if she'd just decided it was time to rest. Maya had been at her bedside, holding her hand as she took her last breath. Irene's recipes now traveled farther than she ever had, stamped on boxes in grocery store freezers across the country. She sees all this, Maya said quietly. Even if I can't. Oh, she sees it, Adrian replied. And if she doesn't, she's haunting our quality control team until they get the seasoning right. Maya laughed, the sound coming easily. Her phone buzzed on the patio table. A news alert. She glanced at it. Froze. Adrian felt her body tense. What is it? He asked. She opened the article. Ex-lottery winner charged in fraud scheme. There was a mugshot. Trevor. Thinner. Hard lines carved around his mouth. Eyes dull. The article described how he'd run an investment opportunity targeting people desperate to make quick money, promising huge returns on fake ventures. He'd taken what little they had and blown it. The charges could mean up to 15 years in prison. How do you feel? Adrian asked quietly. A few years earlier, she might have felt satisfaction, vindication, a sharp, ugly joy. Now she just felt distant. I feel nothing, she said slowly. He's just another man who made bad choices and hurt people. He doesn't get to be the center of my story anymore. She deleted the notification and set the phone face down. Come on, she said, turning to Adrian. We have a board meeting. These franchises won't run themselves. Later that morning, Maya stood at the head of a long table, presenting an international expansion plan. London, Paris, Toronto, Tokyo. Not as some wild fantasy, but as a carefully structured next phase. The board approved unanimously. In the hallway afterward, Patricia, now VP of Operations, shook her head grinning. I remember when you couldn't stand in a meeting for more than 10 minutes without getting dizzy, Patricia said. Now you're up there talking about conquering continents like it's nothing. I had good people who believed in me, Maya said. You did the work, Patricia replied. We just clapped. That evening, Maya and Adrian cooked dinner together in their penthouse kitchen. He still couldn't follow a recipe to save his life, but he tried, and she still pretended not to notice when she quietly fixed his mistakes. Remember when you thought you were useless without a job killing you? Adrian asked, tasting a spoonful of sauce and wincing. Wow, that definitely needs help. I remember, she said, taking the spoon. I also remember you saying you don't fix lives. I don't, he said. You fixed yours. I just invested at the right time. Anyway, they ate on the balcony as the city lights flickered on, one by one. Somewhere far away in a cell with bars instead of windows, Trevor Lawson faced the consequences of choices he had once confidently dumped at her feet. Maya did not think about him. She thought about Aunt Irene's laugh, Adrian's hand warm in hers, the staff whose lives intertwined with hers now. She thought about the woman who had once believed that love meant bleeding for someone until there was nothing left. The best revenge she had learned was not watching the person who hurt you burn. It was building a life so full, so rich, so undeniably yours that their memory became a footnote instead of a headline. When dessert came, a slice of sweet potato pie from Irene's original recipe, she took a bite and smiled. Victory tasted like that, sweet, satisfying, and nothing like the scraps she'd once accepted.